What's up, guys? Welcome back, Fantasy Team Advisors. You're probably sick of already seeing me, but get used to it. We've got Week 4 XFL wide receiver rankings. Hopefully, these help you out. It's helped out people in the past 3 weeks. Hopefully, it continues. Whether or not you're playing season long on altfantasysports.com or you're playing DFS, FanDuel, or DraftKings, we are hopefully going to help you out. Now, wide receiver is one of the most elite positions other than quarterback in XFL. In NFL, we have running backs. They always usually play a role. But this is where we actually hopefully are able to show you can build your lineup. You can do this and you match it, and you need to pair them up with your QB for the most part, depending if you're playing the single game or not. QB to their number one wide receiver is the way to go. The first 3 weeks is where we've won money. Hopefully you have as well. So would love to hear your experiences. Would love to hear if you listened to our rankings last week. Did they help you out? Let us know down below. Also, check out at the end of the video, we'll have the QBs and the running backs video there. Go check out the running back or the QB video. Give it a like. If we get to 50 likes before Saturday, we'll give a FanDuel and DraftKings GPP lineup for you guys, for everyone who likes it. So we'll post it in the comment section and we'll pin that comment there so you guys can see it. So that being said, let's jump right into it. I don't think it's going to be a surprise who the number one wide receiver is. Until he shows me he can't, or gets hurt, Cam Phillips is going to be our number one there. So looking at this, you can go to our article, which you can find right down below. You can sort by all, and then we have all the way to 44. I'm not going to go over 44. I'm going to go over the top 10, and you can kind of check that out. Now, depending on the team, some of these players, wide receivers, are also tight ends. Unless you're actually playing like season long, tight end's really not a position you need. So you've got the flex on FanDuel, and then you've got the wide receiver and flex on DraftKings. So you don't necessarily have to be a tight end. These kind of have been lumped together because they are being used as tight ends. They are being used as wide receivers. So that being said, let's just kind of go through it. Number one is Cam Phillips. I absolutely love Cam Phillips here. Last week, caught 8 of 10 targets, 194 yards, 3 touchdowns, 48 fantasy points. Week 2 against St. Louis, he had 3 touchdowns as well, 32 fantasy points. And week 1 against LA, he had 1 touchdown and 17 fantasy points. So he is just absolutely dominating. I love him this week. Dallas ranks the second worst, or the third worst against the wide receiver, and Cam Phillips, his price is up there, but I absolutely love him there. Number 2 is Donald Parham. More so, he's a tight end, but I mean, he's like 6'10", I think they said. The only problem is he was limited in practice on Wednesday due to a hand injury, so he is questionable right now. But if he's in there, which I fully expect him to be in there, absolutely love what he's going to bring to the table. Last week against Seattle, he caught 5 of 7 targets, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. They're pretty damn long touchdowns as well. 30 fantasy points. Last week on DraftKings, he was 5,300. This week, he is 9,900. If you had him last week, you absolutely crushed it with your roster construction. Problem is, he's jumped up 50 or 4,600. I'm not a huge fan of, but if you are playing, he's definitely worth it at number 2. Week 2, he was 3,200, and week 1, he was 2,600. So just kind of looking at this, I like what we're seeing. There's not a ton of guys. I mean, I think without looking up stats, he might be the tallest player in the league. I'm not sure. We'll see. But looking at that, I have him at number 2. Number 3 is Jalen Tolliver. Now, I didn't have any exposure to him last week, and I was kind of regretting that watching the games when we were in the hospital. But Tolliver last week was 4,300 on DraftKings, had 22 fantasy points with 8 receptions on 13 targets, 104 yards. That was good there. Week 2, he had 3 fantasy points. Week 1, he had 8 fantasy points. He's gone from 4,300 to 6,000, but honestly, when we're looking at that, I like him. Now, he is going up against DC. They ranked the second best against defending the run. He is 6,000 though, so if you are trying to pay down a little bit, if you're not paying for Phillips, you're not paying for Parham, that could be a way to do it. Number 4 is Trey McBride. He is questionable. Being it is Thursday, I'm going to be putting out an article either today or tomorrow or even Saturday morning early to have all the people who are questionable or in or out to hopefully help you guys. So definitely make sure you go ahead and you check out fantasyteamadvisors.com, scroll over the XFL, go to XFL articles, and you can find it. Or if you follow us on Twitter at advisors_team, every time an article goes live, it automatically tweets out. You can just click it right there. So that'll help you with the injury report. That'll help you with the rankings each week as well. And as always, please subscribe to our YouTube page. You can do it right here and hit that bell notification so you guys know when we go live or when we put out videos. I want to go live more, but with our baby being in the hospital, I don't really have the time at the moment. But once she comes home, starting in April, which I know sucks, because XFL is going to be pretty much done by then. But I'm going to have 6 weeks off of my full-time job. I would like to go live for MLB content as much as I possibly can. So definitely make sure you follow us on all social media, which you can find down below, or you can go to the website and there's links out there. Trey McBride, he only played week 3 last week against DC. Let's see. He is questionable, like I said, but he's going up against New York. I like his odds here. Last week, he had 5 receptions on 6 targets for 109 yards and 2 touchdowns, 31 fantasy points on only 3,300 salary. He jumped from 3,300 last week to 8,100 this week on DraftKings. He is questionable. He had a thigh issue. He was questionable last week and had 109 yards, so I'm not too terribly concerned with it. The problem is the salary is up there so much, almost 5,000 from last week. So it's kind of the name of the game. You got to get lucky on some of your players because they're still not priced all the way up. But Trey McBride rounds out the number 4 spot. Demornay Pearson L comes in at number 5. We're looking at that. Going up against Seattle. Seattle's the number 1 ranked defense against wide receivers, so that's a little bit scary there. He's 9,500 as well on DraftKings. So all of these are going to be DraftKings because if I did both FanDuel and DraftKings, it would be a lot. Videos would be long. Last week, he only had 8 fantasy points against New York. 3 receptions on 3 targets for 25 yards. Week 2 against Houston, he had 9 receptions on 11 targets for 50 yards, but did have a touchdown. For 20 fantasy points, and in week 1, he had 4 for 4 receptions, 64 yards, and 10 fantasy points. So he's super expensive there. I don't know if I'll have much exposure to him. Probably I won't have much exposure at all. I am definitely looking at Cam Phillips. I am definitely looking at Parham. The top 4 is where I'd be. I'm probably, barring maybe needing some salary relief that I can find, I'm not going to shy too far away from the top 4, top 5. And again, guys, these can change. We do have a lot of questionable people right now. It is only Thursday. Once the reports come out from all of today and tomorrow, we may be able to get a clearer picture when the questionables are either in or the questionables are out. Now, we did get screwed last week with Joe Horn. He was in one of our optimal lineups. I still cashed. It was a $5 entry, and I won $35. He got a big fat 0 out of him. But we still cashed, which was kind of nuts. But, I mean, we had Cam Phillips. We had Phillip Walker. So we were doing pretty good there. But something to monitor. Looking at Pearson L, I don't know if I'll really have any exposure there. Number 6 is Khalil Lewis. Number 7 is Flynn Nagel. Now, looking at Nagel, watch again. I had to watch the game in the hospital, but Nagel going up against Houston, they're ranked 8th against the wide receiver there. Now, he's not the number one. Donald Parham is. But again, this isn't like... This isn't your normal like NFL wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. Anyone can be anyone. I mean, anyone can have a huge day. As you can see, I mean, if you just look at the box scores, there are a ton of people having huge days that either no one was on, or if you're in the multi-entry tournaments, then, 150 entries, people had exposure to them. But Nagel last week against Seattle caught 5 of 6 receptions for 39 yards and a touchdown, had 15 fantasy points at 4,700. Week 2, he had 3 fantasy points. Week 1 against St. Louis, he had 10. Again, though, last week he was only 4,700 on DraftKings. It only went up 100 this week. I mean, he is technically a wide receiver too, but if you want to think of it this way, Parham's really a tight end, so Nagel could be that wide receiver 1 where Parham would be your tight end 1. Number 8 is Dan Williams, and number 9, Austin Proehl. Looking at Proehl here, I did have him last week. He went off for 20 fantasy points. 6 of 7, 81 yards and a touchdown. Week 2, he only had 1 fantasy point. Week 1, he had 26. So honestly, Proehl has only gone up $100 on DraftKings. He's coming in. He's facing St. Louis. The only problem is I'm going to have, for DraftKings where you do play defense, I'm going to have St. Louis as the defense. So it's going to be hard to want to play Proehl and the defense, but I guess you could and just hope that Proehl's the only one that does any damage, whereas your defense can make up the points there, which I'm okay with, especially in tournaments where you have to get a little bit crazy. And number 10 is Eli Rogers. I don't know if I'll have much exposure, but I'll sprinkle some in depending on how many lineups we actually make. So there you go, guys. Those are your wide receiver rankings for XFL Week 4. Again, if you want to get our entire season, the rest of the XFL season, for $25 off, get it for $50. All you have to do is go to fantasyteamadvisors.com. Right here, click FTA Plus. Scroll down to the first one, XFL Yearly. Hit the join button right here. Use the promo code XFL Year. That's XFL YEAR, all capital letters, all one word. Get $25 off for the rest of the XFL season. So that is all I've got, guys. We do have 17 coupon codes left. We did start with 19 for the day. We had a total of 20. So people are scooping them up. After these are gone, there are no more, and I cannot hold it. So if you want to get it, go check it out there. And at the end of this video, right here, and probably here or here will be the QB, the wide receiver, and the running back rankings, along with the defense rankings as well. That's what I've got, guys. Good luck this week, and as always, bring home that bacon. Peace.